I think 7 years ago, I had a similar thing to this. I was a sophomore in high school, and I wanted to teach people how to code. So I came in and booked this room from the library 7 years ago, and I tried to get as many people to show up, and there were 2 people. So this is great that you guys are all organizing this event. I personally wanted to drive out here and share my experiences with you guys, because I think everybody in this room is in the right direction, so I'm super happy to see a lot of people. So background on myself, I've taught a lot of people, so I've taught over 5,000 students, primarily helping students get into colleges, so SAT, ACT, college admissions, and now I primarily teach a lot of college students, specifically trying to break into careers in finance. So I think a lot of it, what I try to focus on with high school students is mastering the mind. I think mindset is something that's super, super important, but is not taught enough to us, and it's super hard to get a lot of the required mindset to be really successful in business. So I want to try to break that down pretty simply. So the first thing is that, there's a lot of different things here. What am I trying to show here? Can somebody tell me, what is it that I'm trying to display? Yeah?
Like types of currency.
Okay, types of currencies. Which type of currencies do you see here?
Like fiat and commodity.
Okay, fiat and commodities. Simplify more.
Like I see gold we use to trade.
Okay, you see gold. What else do you see?
Corn, seeds, all types of stuff you can use to trade for other things.
Good. So we see commodities, we see currencies, Bitcoin, cash, Chinese yen, whatever. We see real estate, we see stocks. So you see a bunch of different assets, right? So if I were to ask you today, in today's market, what do you guys think is the best asset? What is the best asset to invest in?
As of today, probably gold.
Gold? What else? What do you guys think? Yeah.
There is no one place like it's the best.
There's no one place, maybe diversify a little.
Diversify.
She said stocks.
What's that?
Stocks.
Stocks, okay, equities, yeah.
S&P 500.
S&P 500 index funds, okay. Nobody yet, yeah.
Crypto.
Crypto, okay, Bitcoin, Ethereum, choose whichever. Nobody's told me the right answer yet.
Real
Invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself, good, that's right? So that is the answer. I'll tell you why from personal experience, right? So there's a couple things. One is like investing in yourself. Why yourself? Because you have time, right? Which we'll talk about time later. But I genuinely think that like the library and all the resources here are the most powerful asset. Like you in the library, the only 2 things you really need. Because when I started my business, so I started my business last year, I maybe invested a few $1,000s, and now it's valued over 6 figures. Right, so I say that the stock market, what did the stock market return last year? 20%, right, 24%. Whereas I was able to get a return of 50x, 60x, right? So when people say that, it's actually true, and I'm here to speak for that. There's no better investment than the one in yourself, and that's why all of you guys are probably gonna be going to college pretty soon, right? And it's expensive, but it's a great investment because you're gonna get a job or a good career. For me, I was able to start a business by being at a good university. So I think that's probably the most important thing. You can learn about, I'm a finance guy, I'm always thinking about what to invest in, how to diversify a portfolio, but the most important thing is, even if you don't go into finance, is just realizing that if you should just fully invest in yourself, right? If it's an extra book, if it's an extra person you can talk to, you should for sure take up on that opportunity. Okay, so I tend to write a lot, so I write a lot on LinkedIn, and I have a newsletter now with a lot of people that follow it. So I'm going to be sharing some ideas from LinkedIn that I post on. I write 3 times a day, so you'll see a little bit of that. So somebody read this for me. Somebody read this for me. Yeah.
You are the lower of your beliefs or skills. You control both. Output equals to the min of mindset and skill set.
Yeah. So simplifying this, this formula is pretty important. This is something I wrote yesterday, so it's very fresh. That's the first one we'll start with. It's that if you have limiting beliefs, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, right? An example of this is that I talk to a lot of my professors, right? So these are PhDs, really, really smart people. And I ask them, like, why aren't you doing what I'm doing? Like, why, you're really smart, why don't you just go out and start a business? Right? It's because there's a bunch of limitations. They know starting a business is not easy, there's a bunch of problems. So if you don't have the mindset, if you don't have the belief that you can do it or will, the skills don't matter. You could be very skilled, right? You could be a PhD, you could have done all these different things, but you can't apply it because you have limiting beliefs. Now let's say you have no limits. You think you can do whatever you want, be an NBA player, be an astronaut, be a doctor, that's great, but now you need the skills. right? So when I teach, the two things that I focus on are, one, let me give you the skills, because if you don't have knowledge, there's not that much that you can do. The second thing is that you need the right mindset. You need a growth mindset, right? So that's the first thing. Mindset is really, really important. A lot of you guys have that, but with time, I find out as we get older, we start to have more of a scarcity mindset. We lose that growth mindset, which is really important, especially if you want to start any sort of business. Okay, next. Somebody else read this. Yeah.
Information is addicting. Action is onerous. Life rewards the latter.
Exactly. Right? So like the hardest thing to do is just taking action. And like very few people will actually do it, right? Like I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of mentors that are probably smarter than me, but they don't take action in whatever direction, right? It's 'cause it's hard, it's uncomfortable taking action, we're uncertain about the outcome, but we just need to start with whatever it is, because when you start, you're gonna find solutions, right? What you need is data. So an example of this is, let's say you wanna start, selling, let's say, secondhand clothing. Right, you have this great idea, you're thinking about building a website and getting all this funding, like all you should do is, you should on your locker at school or whatever, or on your dorm room in college, put up a sign and say, used clothes, donate them or drop them off right here. And if nobody drops off the clothes, that means that's probably not a good business idea. So you need to take action in order to get data, and then you iterate on that data. Right, if you're trying to seek out a bunch of information and you don't get started, well, you can't really do anything with that. You can't iterate and go forward. So the big thing is just get started, and you'll learn more with time. All right, somebody else. Yeah.
Practice the one motion. Do it again and again. We get good by repeatedly surviving service or shop.
Good, very good. So essentially what this is now you've started, right? So whatever the business is, say we're selling secondhand merchandise, you've started, you put up the sign, and you're trying to see how much interest there is. Now you need to keep doing that thing again and again. You have to keep iterating day in and day out. So what does this mean for me? Well, I run an education business, so for the last 4 or 5 years, or 6 years, I've been teaching every single day, right? And now I've been writing a lot, so I write 3 times a day. And there's no excuse of being consistent. Like you have to be consistent. So first is you got to start. Second is you got to be consistent, right? And you got to be consistent not for 1 day, 2 days, weeks, months, like years, right? And I've been doing this now. I've been teaching for 7 years, and I'm starting to see like things start to compound a little. But if I keep doing it for another 3, 4, 5 years, I can only imagine how much I'll be able to reach, right? So you get started, and then you keep practicing, right? A good analogy of this is does anybody know how to juggle? Juggle? Okay, I left my props at campus, but I was gonna teach you guys all how to juggle, okay, but I left the juggling balls at campus. But the way you juggle is, everybody's trying to worry about how you catch the ball. Catching the ball isn't what's important. Right? What's actually important is throwing the ball in a way that every time it lands in the same exact spot. So actually how you start to learn to juggle is you just use one hand and you just keep throwing. Right? You keep throwing so it lands in the exact same spot. That's exactly how we should think about our work. We should think about it as just focusing on the practice. What is the practice? It's the one thing that you have to do that'll make you good, right? So in juggling, it's just throwing the ball in the same motion again and again. When we worry about the outcome, which is trying to catch the ball, we're starting to run all over the place. Right? We're getting distracted. If we could just do the practice, the input really, really well, the output will converge. Right? So we covered just get started, because most people don't start. They like taking in a bunch of information, but you need to take action in order to make that information useful. Second, we learned about consistency. And third is, does anybody know who he is? Okay, Warren Buffett, like, why do we know him? Because he's rich. Why is he rich?
Berkshire Hathaway.
Berkshire Hathaway, what does Berkshire Hathaway do?
Invest.
They invest, what do they invest in?
Businesses.
Businesses, right? So this guy's really wealthy. Does anybody know somebody wealthier than him? Who's wealthier than Warren Buffett? Who has more than $100 billion? Elon Musk. Who else?
Ambani.
What's that? Bill Gates. Who else?
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. Okay, so we have a couple names. All right, still like nobody's given me the correct answer. Who else is richer?
The Rothschilds?
The Rothschilds. Well, now they're coming down slowly.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else?
Bernard Arnault?
What's that?
Bernard Arnault.
Okay, so Louis Vuitton founder of Louis Vuitton. Who else? Bill Gates. Anybody else? So we probably exhausted our list. I'll give you guys the answer. Okay, it's all of you. Okay, and like I'm serious, right? And what do I mean by that? Let me give you guys this quote. So this is a little longer, but somebody read this quote. Somebody read this quote. You know it's intimidating. Yeah.
If you are young and reading this, then I ask you to remember justice. You are richer than any older men, and far richer than those who are much older. What you choose to do with the time that stretches out before you is entirely a matter for you. But do not say you're starting to journey more. If you are young, you are infinitely richer than I could ever be.
Yeah. So this was written by this guy Felix Dennis. He passed away, but he was like nearly a billionaire. He published a bunch of stuff. So this was in his book Get Rich something. So just a quote, and I think that this is. I want to put this up because we're all pretty young. I'm 21. You guys are 16, 17. And I think it's so true. Like when we're young, we don't really value our time because there's a bunch of it. But being young, like me looking back when 7 years ago when I was here, like those are some of the most fun experiences, right? Going to high school and coming home on the bus, doing cross country, teaching people. All these experiences were really good. So that's the only thing I tell like myself all the time is that like right now you have it really well. Like you probably have like you're really comfortable. You can do whatever you want. Being young is a huge privilege. And I always think about that because when you're older, like not only are you gonna have back pain and whatnot, like life, there's a lot more responsibilities that exist with life, right? So right now as a young person, like do as much as you can, explore as much as you can, because that ability kind of starts to diminish as you grow older. And you're gonna look back at it and be like, oh, I actually love those times. For me, I love being a high school student. I love working where I used to. Like all those experiences were super fun. And with time comes more stress and more responsibility. So a lot of that will go away. So the reason you're richer than Warren Buffett is you have more time to have compounding work in your favor and to see real returns, right? He's closer to the back end of his life. You guys are at the start. So I would say we should all be trying to craft our lives around that. So that's pretty much all I have. 3 takeaways, just to be really simple. It's 1, the best asset is yourself. I speak from personal experience. Like if I were to invest in the stock market versus my business, it would be my business. Because I wouldn't see 10% a year, I'd see 10 times a year, 20 times a year, 30 times a year, so on and so forth. Second thing is just be a self-starter, right? It's really easy to get wound up in whatever you're trying to learn, but take that learning and apply it in small ways, because that's gonna give you more information, and then take that information and learn more. 3, be consistent with whatever you do. The only reason I'm here and have somewhat built something is because I did it day in and day out for the last 5-6 years. So those are the only 3 take-homes that cut off, but I write 3 times a day. So there's a newsletter and there's LinkedIn. I know not a lot of people use LinkedIn, but yeah. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.